are vitally important that you need to know about. And
since we're running late, let's just go ahead. I ain't gonna introduce you. Let's just go ahead and start.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay. Let me know when you're ready to.
I'm ready.
And you can, put the subject matter and the date, time in.
Right. All that's in.
All right. You just see it.
So what this class is going to be on is the March American government activates gold back treasury with $666 trillion in Dollarium. That's what we're talking about. And when the two sisters was in the back, she asked what was the class about. You heard right? So I told her it's on money. So she said, that's a good class. So I said, have you ever seen money? So she gave me a funny look, right? And she said, yeah, I've seen money. I said, when? She said, today. She just pulled it up. I said, hey, money. It's the Federal Reserve note. Kind of, and so I asked her, and yeah, she did. She thought I was being funny. But basically, a lot of people think that Federal Reserve notes money. It's not money. So that's what he's going to talk about. And anybody got any questions, man, just ask questions. All right?
Oh, as an interim, just to share information with you, because I talk to people from around the world, and once in a while I'll get calls, and they usually don't talk long because it'll be cut off or interrupted because it's me, so because they try to block outside information, but every once in a while it gets through, Hong Kong, they're running the banks right now as we're speaking. So understand it's on its way here. So like I've been telling y'all for years, if you got any fiat in the bank, take it out. And if you got large amounts, if you try to take it out one time, they're gonna call the cops on you, or they're gonna do something to you. So, because it's not yours. And I'll tell you why if you ask me, though that's not the subject matter. But because they plan to confiscate it anyway. So it's better that it's in your hands and in your safe. Trust yourself instead of trusting them. So that's just a one-ups, because you already know I've been telling people for years, take their fiat out of the banks, and if you're going to use them, only leave enough to transact what you do on a weekly basis, so that when they steal from you, they ain't got much to steal. Meaning that no more than it takes to keep that account operative, if you're wise. So you've been told. So I won't go into that subject matter, but you've been told. Now, like when I used that as a scenario earlier, and I said, if you're a made man, or if you're a constitutionalist, Mason, Shriner, Illuminati, Ghoul Society, Bishopric, whether it's on the light side or the dark side, which means the truth is one. Just like when you see it in the Septuaginta or the Bible, when you hear it say the sun shines on the good as well as the evil, means that truth is truth and the sun is the sun. It's not partial. The laws of nature are not partial. Where are you in relationship to divine law, and how do you guide your life? How do you navigate? But there is no special God looking at you to take your peanut butter sandwiches because you didn't pray yesterday. So get that out of your head. Now, the people that promote those kind of thoughts themselves know what I just said because they're trained with that. However, they don't teach that to the masses. They want the masses to be docile and subordinate. Do you understand? But they themselves do not believe anything. They seek knowledge. Are we clear? And they operate from knowledge, sometimes referred to as degrees. In a private conversation, say if I had a grand sheik sitting here, a grand dragon sitting there, an imam sitting here, rabbi sitting there, a bishop, P2, sitting there, Shriner sitting here. In a private conversation, none of them would dispute with anything that I'm saying. In public, a couple of them start saying I got a devil. The other one saying that's shirk. You know, he's a sinner, and to keep the masses asleep. Are we clear? In secret, they're partners. Even though for the public they argue with each other, and you're going to hell in the handbasket because you didn't give Reverend Bigfoot $5 for Jesus' half type stuff. You didn't make charity, you didn't make salat and stuff like that. And also in secret, most of them kissing the ring of the Pope. Do you understand? Pope of Rome. For your information, and write this down, some of you who are not already aware of it, Article 3 of the Secret Treaty of Verona in the congressional records, and you'll find the oath of the clergy. And this is for people who's hard for them to accept what we just put on the board. You know what I mean? Or they think that you're attacking their religions and their beliefs, whatever. You know, well, it's true. You throw them on a life raft and they think you're anti-God, anti-Allah. And they don't know, most of them really, what any of it is. Although it relates to them, you know, I'm just saying their concepts of it is corrupted. And the only ones that usually get wealthy is the guy with the $3,000 suit who's pumping it to the believers. While secretly, he got other degrees. And it doesn't mean they're bad people. Don't misunderstand where I'm coming from. They don't mean they're bad people. It's just for the most part, they're liars, that's all. That are opportunistic with a dumbed-down humanity who's actually been abused by the priesthood, and the devil has been a tool for the priesthood to hide their corruption. You know, the devil took the sandwiches. Getting the peanut butter from over here. You know, why you looking at the devil? You want to kick the devil's butt. You don't see him, but you get him, and you raising money too. You know, come out the jacket type thing. You know, where's he at? Where's he at? And they've been getting away with it. Because really what it is, for those who really know, dogmata is what's given to the masses as religion. Please understand where I'm coming from. It's not condemning people for having belief systems. It's only exposing that they're under training, animal training. Do you understand? And it doesn't mean that they're bad people for doing this. It just means they're being abused, misused, misled, not accidentally. And usually they will fight you for trying to rescue them, as if you're against their gods type thing. But that's part of the training too. If you were a made man, say Masonic order, you'd have a coin. Mafia, you'd have a coin. Titles, Ku Klux Klan, Union Guard, Thule Society, you carry a coin. If you're a constitutionalist, same way. If you're one who there, because the word we were talking earlier is often used improperly, conscious community, that kind of statement. If you're conscious, you carry one. Because it would indicate that you have a kind of a reasonable degree of understanding of how things work, how human society is structured, how it operates. So I'm clear. Not necessarily, because it's all you learn from cradle to grave. Are we clear? However, there are degrees. And so in any science that you learn on the planet concerning human endeavors, human life, human structure, the disciplines, is fundamentally doctorates in philosophy, no matter what it is. Are we clear? If you're dealing with ecclesiastics and you go into degrees, you would be a PhD. Engineering, same thing. Are we clear? And so loosely they just say doctor. But what it means, doctor of philosophy. All right? And what it is, whatever discipline that you're into, you would study the primal sources of information that are at the foundation of that particular discipline. Are we clear? And test it on it, and meet certain criteria, accepted criteria. And it doesn't mean necessarily that all the criteria that is presented to you is absolutely correct. It is usually what is accepted as correct. All right? Are we clear? However, in the real world of operations, the secret societies exist for a lot of the truths and facts or established rules of life, some of which have been kept from even those with PhDs. Are we clear? Are we clear?
Yeah.
So there's a layer of hierarchy in the hierarchy, but usually not admitted to the public. Are we clear? Also not spoken of publicly. Are we clear?
Yeah.
So I'm being honest with you. So some of the things that I say to you are actually in those upper degrees. But most of you who know me know that I've never hidden anything anyway. But in the real world, so if I'm dealing with, say, like a administrative clerk of the commercial realm for the Circle Church, who's foreclosing on my home, and you're at a so-called share sale, and they're bidding, going through their things, and you already knocked out the picture. You go up there and you do your coin. You say stop the proceedings. Got one lawful silver dollar, and it trumps all of them stacks of private commercial paper of the Jesuit order that you, in breach of your oath, are honoring to interrupt the deed of trust and dragging that house that I'm steward of in it as trustee of me as ward. I'm not ward, I'm there. And I'm not standing as surety. Here's my claim. They'll close it down. Close the court. Even if they carry it through, they ain't gonna do it in front of these people. You understand? It's also used in other situations. Whereas, like, say, for instance, you might be in Alabama somewhere and they assume that you're what they call a black man and start doing the Christian black code things and want to give you a necktie to match your shirt type thing. And you pull out a coin, or you say, I'm not black, I'm more. And anything like that, then the whole atmosphere changes. You know what I mean? Because all of them are Masons, right? So they give you a pass. They say, hang that one, take him by the road, send him out. Make sure he got passage. That's why made men carry coins in points of emergency, because that's the real world. Because the masses are in a false matrix. They know it, but most of them are in denial. In their hearts, they know it, but most of them are in denial. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now I'm gonna get to subject matter, and I want you to ask some questions, because if any of you have seen recent videos that have taken place, and you've seen a video with Judge Light, Tajiri Bey, and them issuing 666 trillion Dollarium. How many are familiar with it? And logically, questions will come up. So I'm going to tell you this much so that you can have a background to comprehend what you're looking at. You must know trust law to understand what's taking place. If you don't know trust law, it'd be difficult for you to look at it because you're looking for physicality. For starters. And you're probably measuring at first in your mind your concept of what you think a dollar is and what a dollar is not. Most not what a dollar is not, but most thinking what they think a dollar is, and they're measuring from that point. Let me inform you from the surface. The dollar is a short for Yakum dollar, which means gold coin. Are we clear? Yeah. And it deals with the principles of cosmology of the character of the nature of culture on the planet Earth. Are we clear? Some would call it true religion. Are we clear? Yes. Not what the masses get or what they think it is. That's not rejecting what they get. It's just explaining to you what is behind the veil, distinguish what is given to the masses, what they assume that they're getting, right? So I'm gonna make these points to you. All right. As an example, I'm Muslim. Now there's multiple comprehensions of what that is. To some or to most, Muslim is one who submits to the will of Allah, right? The images that people take in their mind is an image of the way they've been trained. They'll say abstract. They'll say the great spirit, the unseen, creative force. But in their mind, from an anthropomorphic view, because humans on this planet pretty much have been trained in an anthropomorphic venue. So therefore, their mind is a man sitting on a golden throne with a turban on, in their mind. That's to give them some kind of a value. And then before him, say Prophet Muhammad, messenger, etc. type thing. You know, not good or bad or wrong, but you know, from a child's point of view, that would be called anthropomorphic. Are we clear? If they're dealing with Yahshua ben Yosef, Isa, or who they call Jesus, they would just change the imageries and the names, and you got the same thing. Do you understand? If you deal with Elohim, or what you call Yahweh, etc., same game. From an anthropomorphic perspective. All right? Now, as we were talking earlier, and as we were introducing into the subject matter, if you get these same people that claim to be Christian, right? And you give them that, right? They would say, "Oh, that's not my symbol. That's not my game." I'm not knocking it, but you know, I ain't into that type thing, right? Right? And same thing if you deal with Muslims, people, Muslim, Buddhists, etc. You give them that symbol. Excuse my semi-drawing. And they don't necessarily relate to it, don't reject it. Now, the interesting thing when you study what you call human sociology, and what the masses are called total religion is, the most tolerant generally is Islam, which is tolerant of all the religions because all of them are part of Islam in a sense, if you get the point. Even though when you deal with a lot of people who claim Islam, you'll see the biases that they have among each other, just like they have in Christianity and other things, meaning that most of the things that people claim they don't really practice. They do more of an imagery, a look. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Then real practice is not really in their life other than how they try to project to other people. Outside of that, everybody partying, whatever, they're just people. They do the same thing. They really, you know what I mean? Some hide it, some veil it, they're just people. So don't be impressed. But point that I'm making is back to cosmology. What these mean, in fact, is not usually what's told to the believers. Are we clear? All right. Same thing with Hex Alpha. All right. Now these are common, right? Now with Muslims, all of these belong to Muslims, but some Muslims don't accept all of these. Now to the average person who don't know Islam, science, would wonder where I'm coming from with that. Because to them, the way they've been trained, it doesn't make sense. Because all the people are locked into one of these, in their mind, fences, abstract fences of what they are perceiving what religion is based on what some group of men told them. But I'm telling you that the group of men that told them that in secret don't buy what they're telling the masses. Are we clear? Because they got all the books. They just don't display them to the believers. Are we clear? And like I said to you before, because we're going to get into the Dollarium thing, but I'm building around it because it's all involved. It's all connected. All right? Pardon me. All of them. So if you take a Mason, a Master Mason, going past Master Mason, Shriners, Kaikos, Ku Klux Klan, Illuminati, Knights Templar, Knights of Columbus, Daughters of Isis, Eastern Stars, Kaikos, Ku Klux Klan, Union Guard, Full Society, on and on, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, on and on and on, right? All of them got Korans, so get that out. So get that mystery out your face already. Are we clear? Yeah. However, their training with it is not what the masses get. The same way. Do you understand? Even though they have degrees and they're giving the information mostly in signs, symbols, and allegorical stories, they're given certain keys that demystifies the mystery type thing. Are we clear? Yeah. But they're also bound to oaths not to share that comprehension and understanding with the masses, even with the one they're sleeping next to in the bed. Are we clear? Clear. And that's how the world has pretty much run. The difficulty for some of them today, in these days, is that there's been a few men born of women whose missionary work is to unravel that or pull the wool off those wolves. And so you have a clash, you have a cultural clash going on the planet right now. Are we clear? Are we clear? Their network of keeping humanity in the dark is so strong, and it has mostly to do with the fact that they're not only thieves, they're murderers. Do you understand? If someone comes to rescue, they already have systems where that person is what they refer to as neutralized. Are we clear?
Very well.
Common man to kill you. Or just to keep the masses in the dark. Because they're really parasites. All right? You know, you think because they have these holy garbs on, beautifully dressed, and they got holy books in their hands, that they're salami, baloney, and divinity of Allah in heavens and stuff, type stuff, you know. Fact, most of the bloodshed on the planet comes from them people. That's saying Jesus, God, Allah, and Moses, and love you and salvation. And they're the biggest stockholders in the arsenals of war on the planet. The largest stockholder of the arsenals, the stock in the arsenals is the church. They're the largest stockholder. Why? Because they're the source of the wars. Researchable, go look it up for yourself. Now, getting back to some fundamentals so we can talk about the Dollarium. We've been over this with you many times, but we want to give you some history so you can understand the politics, so you can understand the Dollarium, so you can understand also the 666 trillion and why 666. It's a counter move. It's called chess. That's for one. How many of you know basic rule, law on the planet of heritability, i.e. rules of inheritance? Raise your hand. Look around the room. Look around the room. All right, rules of inheritance. Get up, brother Mike, for a minute. Yeah.
Rules of inheritance.
Yeah, the fundamental rules of inheritance. Inheritance itself, what does it mean?
Her. You come from a mother.
Well, yes, that's what it relates to, yes. Now, in relationship to hereditament, corporal and incorporeal, what does it mean in society? Anywhere on the planet, in general?
National.
Not a question. Do you want to answer a question with a question?
That
How much two and two?
4.
Oh, all right.
That you're a national. You have a national name.
Well, that's true. That's not subject. Subject is heritability. Inheritance, corporal and incorporeal.
Mm-hmm.
How does that relate to humans as far as descendability?
You have to prove your lineage.
Well, that's true too. Yeah.
What you ask me?
Well, it's not loaded, but it is good for us to look at this. See, because how much is 2 and 2? You answer.
Mm-hmm.
How much is 4 and 4? You answer. What is your attribute? Or what some people may say your name. You answer, and you don't look over in the corner, you don't start pulling straws. So that means we need to get grounded in these things because that's what's going on this planet. Are we clear?
Yeah.
Very clear.
Because we have been a particular target of the Spanish Inquisition for quite a few hundred years, and that is what's operating on this planet. Even what's behind all of the wars around this planet. Most of our people don't know that they're at the center of it. They just think they have a skin complexion problem because somebody told them that. So that's the general concept. Then others think, though it is a tool that's used, well, you just have the Christians warring against the Moors or Muslims, and this is what all the wars are around the world. They'll say Christianity versus Islam, which is a loose term that they use. which just simply means the Occidental Germanic tribes wars against the Asiatic Africans. That's all that means. It doesn't mean prayer, and it doesn't mean spirituality. It's a political term. Are we clear?
Clear.
And so the subject matter that we're into is actually that, without the confusion or the biases, so that the people can be better prepared to try to stabilize themselves and their families intelligently, without hatred, without anger, but with intelligence and strategies. Are we clear?
Yeah.
But it can't be done if you're introducing within it biases by adopting controlled narratives that you see in the mainstream news, anger, slander, evil type thinking. You just simply gotta understand that they're waging war on you. You're not at war like some people say. No, they're at war against you, and you collectively are just beginning to wake up to it. War didn't begin. They've been waging war on you for centuries. We've been asleep and in denial. However, we're at a point that denial is dangerous because they're culminating certain things on this planet with the intention of eliminating 2/3 of the population, with you at the forefront of that population elimination. Are we clear?
Clear.
And part of the war strategy is to break you economically, then remove the body. Are we clear? It's not opinion, it's fact. Are we clear? And so we're not talking about the subcategories, which is absolutely true. Like many people are eating here, like you're eating here, right? And he's eating here. It's with a psychology and an understanding that the food has been poisoned. And so you're conscious of what you're putting in your body, knowing that it's been weaponized, right? So a lot of people that come to a venue like this come with that knowledge in their head, right? But that permeates the entire society. That's just a subcategory of the biological warfare with the genetic mutations of the genetic code of the plant life and the animal life for reducing human population as a war tool. Like cancer, as an example, the Cretans, well, the people call them Christians, but don't think spirituality, all right? That's Europeans that you call it, that our people ignorantly call white man, which by the way, means sovereign, doesn't mean complexion. So when our people call the European white man, they say sovereign or God. It's another reason, like as we were talking earlier, it's dangerous for our people not to know language because they actually cast spells on themselves and then get frustrated with the spells that they cast on themselves because they can't read. And then because they're usually arrogant and self-righteous and think that their education is for humans. Education is for animal training. Erudition is for humans. So they think they know stuff, and then they think they got a special relationship with God type thing. They don't even know what God means. But the ones who gave it to them know what it means. It's not a negative at all, so that don't misunderstand where I'm coming from. It's just that they don't know what they're talking about. And so they're under control and don't know they're under control. So what we're trying to do is share with you certain information, give you reference points for research for your own, and then show you some things that are taking place right now on the planet, and some things that you're seeing and how it relates to you, even if you thought it didn't. But it's in your interest to be aware of it. Are we clear? Because it's still your estate, even if you're not aware of it. It's still your estate, even if you're not interested. Are we clear?
Clear.
So as an example, within our families, as an example, in our families, we have Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Hebrew, Israelites. They take on different anthropomorphic versions of what religion is to them. And other than acknowledging that they're family and blood, most of the rest of the stuff they ain't got nothing to talk about because they're mad at each other because they got different gods while saying that they got the same God. That God is one, but they all got different versions. And even some of them in the same so-called religious orders got different versions of the version of that version of the God of the version of the sect. And then some of them just found a new one last week and converted to another one. I really found the Lord this week and they go to another club. So you already know those dynamics are normal in our communities, although people, for the sake of sensitivity, aren't as honest as I just stated that fact to be. That is the fact. And when it comes to really solving problems, they end up arguing with each other in the name of this God love that they all claim to have. And the best way to keep some kind of civility going on so they don't hurt each other is to stop the conversation with all this God love they got, you know, that they got from Reverend Bigfoot, you know, type stuff. Who secretly didn't believe none of that stuff himself. It's a tool. He knows it's a tool. They don't know it's a tool. All right? Now, synopsis in history. We need not go back so many hundreds of years. Let's go back to what you can relate to. Many of you familiar with what's going to take place in a couple of months in Philadelphia, known as the Mummers Parade. Most of you who are young are not aware, but some of you who are not as young, like myself, what they call old heads or G's or whatever, you know, LG type thing, are aware that the Mummers Parade, they stopped doing it in what they call blackface in around 1985 during the Good administration. Wilson Good in Philadelphia. Now, as an interim of information, Wilson Good, for the sake of those who know, was conscious of his Moorish heritage, even though it wasn't good. Are we clear?
Yes.
And like most of them are also, most of all those politicians are Masons too. Are we clear?
Yeah.
And in secret got a Moorish fez and go to a lodge with a Moorish name and they dress their fezzes up with Allah and Moorish names. And then you come back out and claim to be Christians and Jews and a whole bunch of other stuff, all of which they kind of are and are not type thing. It's for the stock market. The believers are the stock market. They're not to know that. One of the other things that of interest that you need to know, and you can write this down, and like I said, these are snippets. So if they don't appear to be connected to you, know that they are. Although I'm not dealing linear with you. All right? One of the things that the priesthood boast about among themselves, led by the Circle Church and the Chancery, and the popes of Rome, and the members of the Roman Curia that run the United States Corporation Company that has been presented to the masses as a country, which it is not. It's really a private country, a private corporation of the Jesuit order registered in Austria. Pardon me. The masses must never come to know that capital does not create labor. Labor creates capital. The masses are never to know that. But all people, members of the Roman Curia, and heads of all corporations are trained and know that as a rule. Are we clear?
Yeah.
For if the masses ever find that out, they will rebel and they will no longer be in rulership. Are we clear? Also, that their concept of fiat must be limited on a plateau of instrumentality referred to as the dollar bill. Right? Now, point. This is back to the point. What they're calling the dollar bill is really a debt note. knowing that the masses cannot read because they've been trained, they don't know that dollar bill is an oxymoron. And the reason they call it a dollar bill is to reduce the karmic debt on themselves for having produced it, because it's a violation of nature. So remember this: persons in positions of power know the true rules of religion while they don't teach it to the masses. See, because divine law does not recognize personal station. Are we clear? So when you hear the term Allah is just, that's what that means. Are we clear? So what you do or do not do are both doings in nature and have a consequence in what is known as the Hermetic law of cause and effect, which is also referred to as karma. Karma is not a response to what you do based on what you do. Karma is just simply cause and effect rule operation in nature. It has no eyes. It's just a rule of life that operates in the phenomena of the universe. And this is why when, like say if say you're an adept and you're a Shriner, you become a Shriner, you're an adept, the same Hermetic rule you would get, the same Hermetic rule that someone gets who's a rabbi, or an imam, or a master mason, or a Kaiklos of Ku Klux Klan, although you wouldn't necessarily teach it openly, blunt like we're talking right now. You would say it in some kind of allegorical form. You know, it sounds beautifully flowered, and you need 5 drinks of Kool-Aid before you contemplate on what it really means type thing, and they give you a badge to wear over here to make you feel important type stuff, you know, to represent your degrees and stuff like that. But most men spend their lives dancing around these things, and then the rulers know square out what they mean. And they're very simple even for a child to understand. And most of the time it's not complex at all. And you'd be surprised, a lot of times, some of the allegorical stories that are told in the higher degrees of the secret societies, if you give it to a child, because the child doesn't have an agenda, child will answer it most of the time, because divine law is very simple and straightforward, because it's not loaded. But the way we've been trained, we keep looking for the metaphysical complexity of the loaded question of the spirituality of, you got really type stuff, you know. Yeah. And then most of our answers are wrong, because we're reaching for straws instead of just simply looking at life. We've been trained we've been pulled so far away from the nature of ourselves that we're not thinking. And so a lot of these things that we're saying is to get you thinking again, all right? Now I'll give you a point. Now this crescent is the crescent symbol for the moon, right? Now this has another metaphysical meaning, but that's the moon. And this, Venus. On another level, because this has relationship to the physical life on the earth, this governs the womb of woman. Are we clear? On a cycle of 13. It also governs the flow of the waters on the earth, the tides. Are we clear? With a secondary effect of fertility and fecundity from Venus. Are we clear? And then we have the sun, right? That's also represented in philosophy, right, with a dot in the middle of it. Some call it the black dot theory type stuff. It's the symbol of the sun. So you're looking like, say, your older Qurans before the Christian Inquisitions, and where they had a lot of graphics, and you'll find it in your old Septuagintas, old Bibles, pentatals, hexatals, your Buddhic script, right, etc. Now, mind you, what I'm telling you, it is known by all sheiks and people with degrees. Most of them will never admit it to you. Most of them will get mad at me for even saying this to you, because it makes them irrelevant. See, because when they have the knowledge that they hide from you, they have power over you. Because they're giving you another thing and they're controlling your thought processes and the narrative. And when you know how things work, even if you have no other power, the knowledge is power. Are we clear?
Clear.
And they also can't fleece you. They just gotta out and out rob you. You ain't volunteering for the BS Dorf. Are we clear? But the point that I'm making to you is the cosmological knowledge of what money is. All right? So the sun, all of these have in their effect with the relationships of the planet in this particular solar system, and we're not talking about the systems outside this one, we're talking about this particular solar system where Gaia is, and Earth only means inhabited place. It doesn't necessarily mean the name of this planet. The name of this planet is Gaia. All right? That's also used symbolically in relationship to Earth in the life source of cycles. Are we clear?
Clear.
Are we clear? Now understand, Masonry really means mother, son, study. Are we clear?
Clear.
Mother, son,
Well.
study. Ma, son, Masonry. And its relationship in nature. Are we clear? So the masters are told it's evil, devil, misery stuff of the devil, of Baphomet, of evil. To keep you from looking at it. That's how the world runs. Are we clear? When all the religious leaders are Masons. Are we clear? They don't mean they're bad people, just mean they ain't telling you what's really up. All right? Now, the alchemical metal for the sun is gold. Alchemical metal for Venus is copper. Alchemical metal for the moon is silver. Now, how many of you if you're in a driveway, you got a driveway or in front of your house, because in many areas, you know, they concrete, but even if you're around next to your driveway where you have vegetation, etc., and you notice in the morning you'll have like moisture on your car, right? So to the persons who don't know how the earth works, they think that the plant life is watered when it rains. Well, sometimes, yeah, often. It's not how it works. When the sun goes down, the moon, in relationship to the sun, it draws water from the earth up to water everything, to give life. Are we clear? And so you have tides of the seas and the oceans and the rivers that move with that. You also have the rhythm of the heart and your blood that works right along with that. Are we clear? So say doctors, say you're a doctor, and you have a series of operations to do, right? Contrary to people who don't really understand how things work, they'll be wondering why you're doing operations in clusters, being half sleepy, rather than just placing them out through the week. Say you got 9 operations the week, right? And so you, in 7 days, I'll do this one on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, 3 on Thursday, a couple on Friday, and another one on Saturday. got this going on. You got rest and all this stuff, right? But people who really know how things work know that they go in another room, they go in their chart, which will be in their pocket, and they'll look at whether the moon is in retrograde, the position of the moon, etc. And they'll measure it against the birth chart of the patient, and they'll place them in the most ideal position with the movement of the moon, and will avoid operating when the moon is in certain phases, so that people don't bleed to death, or so they don't have to give extra blood. That's part of it. It's cosmology, or it's religion. Are we clear? And when you're looking and I do this and, well, you need this pill and this disease and all that stuff, and yeah, you've got high blood pressure and your sandwiches, don't eat that kind of sandwich and, you know, stuff like that. And what you need is this and that and the other. And, you know, what they're really looking at is when your mother brought you here, what salts and phosphates that your body is structured from, which ones are missing, and they know 9 times out of 10 that has part to do with your downturn, or what you're calling sickness. And then they can give it to you just by changing your diet and getting you to eat right and getting you to eat certain stuff, foods and vegetables that are around with you within 300 miles, and you wasn't sick anyway. All they're doing is maintaining you and charging you crazy finance, and when they want to, can kill you after they use up the insurance policy that their boy and the politicians got stock in, along with Reverend at the church. And your stock, human capital. And that's how it works here. But so that you don't start believing what you're teaching the dumb masses, that's why they take you into secret societies. Are we clear?
Clear.
Are we clear?
Clear.
And then what appears to be the differences on the public is so that the masses don't wake up and recognize that they're targeted by all of these parasites. That they're looking at Bishop Wiebelfetzer and Rabbi Osbazel and Muhammad. And yeah. And politician Patricias, they're all partners. And all the congressmen and congresswomen are actually members of the Roman Curia and board of directors for the Circle Church of the Chancery on Fleet Street in England. And all the judicial systems are run from England, not from this land. Orders are sent from England to Washington, D.C., and then spread out. Washington, D.C. is Washington District of the Roman Goddess Columbia. This is the seat of Rome in America. That's what those 3 stars are that you have on them tags up there. And the 2 bars is the upper world and the underworld. Are we clear?
Clear.
So the Dollarium has much to do with that. All right, it's knowing what that is. We're giving some background to you to know what is some of the reference point that is used by these government officials of heirship, that people who don't understand, oh wow, they got a lot of guts saying that kind of stuff. We didn't elect them. You know, it's on the surface. Who the swell is she? She's an heir. And know it. And simply exercising what should have been exercised 100 years ago. It's not that it's not known, it's just that some people, even people who know it, just didn't have the guts to stand up and say it. She and a body of youth who came into the knowledge, kind of pretty much with their eyes kind of already open, given a little bit more knowledge, and were brave enough to speak out. You could say dollar, because it still belongs to us, right? But that wouldn't necessarily be a message to the world, would it? Would it?
No, it wouldn't.
Because they commonly hear that, right?
Right.
But you say Dollarium, they say, what the swell is that? So it makes you ask questions.
Yeah.
So I'm talking. But for you to have some comprehension of it, I mean, you know some because you've been studying. But, and you already know how we talk. We always talk, try to be as fair with someone who does not know. So we can do the best we can that they can comprehend it. And so even though some things we're saying to each other, we already know it's for others, for the listeners, for them to analyze, for them to critique now and later, knowing that on the surface, yeah, well, it's cool, but it's still not comprehended because you're gonna have to kind of bathe yourself out of a lot of crap for it to dawn on you. What's up? Now, so mark these things down. It's not new to you, but mark these things down so along the lines of your analysis as we're speaking, you can look at this information now and later, and then some of your questions can be formulated that actually make sense to what's really going on. The world operates on trust law. Essentially, for your own background, Sister Q v. Trust Act 1666. 1666, 1666. The number of the man of perdition that you will see in the Septuaginta that the Romans translated under the 72 scholars into what is given to the masses for mind control called the Bible. Listen to what I just said the way I said it so that you can take that into consideration later on, because that's not the conversation, but I said it the way I said it for your benefit. Not that I'm going into it right now. I said it the way I said it for your benefit. Because the dark side will take it and twist it. Because remember, the rule that they operate on is what is called, write this down, masking and projection. You go look them up in the dictionary, trace the etymology, comprehend what it means, and you'll also understand some of the politics. While I'm not getting into that, I'm just throwing these things at you so that you can be thinking while we're talking, all right? Because logically, with some of you who have a background in the social geopolitics that have been active, you have a different view than people who are just hearing some of this information, if you get the point. So some of these things I'm saying to you is for you to contemplate later, for the things that will logically rise in your mind. What the swell are you talking about? And it can't all be answered right now, but I'm going to do the best that I can, all right? Synopsis of your modern political history operations. Remember this, that personality, masking, mask means, and personality means mask. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind, symbolically, the Boston Tea Party, with the Europeans put what they call blackface on, and then threw the tea over, and then said the indigenous people did it, the Indians. And understand, we ain't Indians, but they call us that. That's called masking and projecting. And this has much to do why the Mummers Parade was always done in what you call blackface. It's called masking and projection. Yeah, give him the mic. Oh, you came ready, didn't you, brother? I see you got one of them little pocket dictionaries over there.
Boy, I got big pockets.
Yeah, no pocket dictionary like that.
I read the definition for mummer and someone who
Yeah,
does
do that.
things in
Yeah,
mass.
share with us.
Oh, all right.
Now, for the listeners, tell them the source. The source is that book, the year. That's probably on the bridge, looking at the thickness. Is that on the bridge?
Yes, it is.
All right, go ahead.
We are here. Mummer, the book is Webster's New 20th Century Dictionary of the English Language. It's unabridged, and it is 1950.
All right. Go into it. All right. Mummers, part of speech.
Mummer, noun. Getting into it, well, the brackets, Old French, mummery, from mummer, which is M-O-M-E-R, to mum. One who masks himself and makes diversion in disguise, semicolon, a buffoon, semicolon, a mime. They have mummery, masking, semicolon, diversion in masks, buffoonery. Second definition of mummery, farcical show, hypocritical disguise, and parade.
And so that's how the Romans operate here, including the fact that you'll see the Romans have been typically, when dealing with these people, calling themselves white people and calling themselves Americans, both of which they are not. Is to get the people to agree to repeat that and then call them that. That would be transference of power. Mental vampirism. A sociologist, the linguist recognizes the person who can't read don't recognize it and becomes a victim by consent. Are we clear? Then you understand why a lot of times when we're talking to each other, those who know will pull your coattail, and it would appear that they're making a big thing of the semantics when it is a big thing, and the average person doesn't know it's a big thing.